I think from our perspective, what's important is just playing well. You know, we've kind of looked at these group of 4 games as something a little bit different, a way of freshening up the squad and as looking at some different things. And I think to a degree that went pretty well last week. And if we'd have done just a little bit more and pushed and forced a win, you know, having made a few changes and giving guys starts and some guys some game time back from injury and etc. I think we'd have been really pleased with it. As it was, we came up a little bit short against a good Glasgow team, but I think we're pretty comfortable with where we are as a squad. We'll make some changes this week against Cardiff, which is what we said we were going to do. And obviously, you know, it is a different surface. It's more likely to be a quicker game. Hopefully the weather will be good. And I think you'll probably see probably a different game of rugby to you saw this weekend.
You've obviously got 3 more games, including this one, before you're back in Premiership action. In your mind, which is the most important of those 3 games coming up?
They're probably of similar importance in a lot of ways. You know, obviously as we get closer to the Premiership, you know, the Worcester game becomes important that week back into the Premiership. But obviously, you know, this is our last Heineken Cup game of this season. You know, there is a reality that we would like to do at least as well, if not better than we did last season. So a good result would mean we've won a couple, which is going to be important. And kind of keeps us on that track of what we're saying of trying to keep improving and keep getting better with experience. So, you know, if we could repeat 2 wins in this group and have come up closer in our other games as we have done this year than we did last year, I think that marks a nice improvement that we've got to, I think, not be happy with, but see it for what it is. In a tough group, we've done pretty well again. But obviously, you know, Cardiff are a good side. They've got quite a lot riding on it, and they'll be stung by the performance they put in down here, because, you know, there's no doubt they wouldn't have been pleased with what happened down here. They'll probably have been talking about that a lot in their motivation for this week. So we know it's going to be a tough game, but, you know, we trained well this week. We're very open and honest with each other that we want to get better and we want to deal with the little demons and not quite finishing close games off. So, you know, I'm pretty comfortable that we've got there. We'll perform well, and as I always say, you know, we'll take what comes.
The other factor could be, of course, their pitch. How do you prepare for that?
Well, we're quite fortunate because here we have a pretty, you know, we have almost a full-size rubber crumb here. So most of our training this week's been on the rubber crumb, which is pretty fortunate because the weather's been pretty wet. So we've actually avoided being in any mud and any water. So we train on the crumb throughout. We focused on the players who can train on the crumb and play on the crumb. So there's a couple of guys who won't be involved, but that's like I say, that's because of the training and the playing on a rubber crumb, which is slightly different, and a couple of our senior players don't particularly get on with. So that is a bit of an issue. But other than that, you know, we do like training and playing at speed. And there's one thing you can do on a rubber crumb is you can play at pace and tempo, and we're hoping that will suit us.
Any injury worries ahead of the game?
Yeah, we've got some bumps and bruises. You know, everyone is aware we've got a few front row injuries at the moment, but as I say, that's creating opportunities for other people. But as a whole, you know, we managed to get a couple of guys over niggles last week, and so I think we'll probably select from a slightly stronger squad this week. But as I said before, you know, we do have a few guys in the squad who it's not going to be beneficial for them going forward to play on rubber crumb this week, and we won't be picking those guys. But obviously, we want to make sure they're fit for the rest of the season.
Any news on contracts?
No, obviously, as I've said the last couple of weeks, we're very close on 2 or 3. But at this stage, what I will say is I'm very comfortable with how the squad's shaping up next year, and anything we do from now on will only be improving where we are. We were very competitive away in Toulon, and I think that game would have been even more competitive in that early period if we hadn't have kind of almost slipped a mystery try that went in, really. But having said that, you know, Glasgow games were both very tight. Potentially, I think if we'd have been more in the hunt in the Heineken Cup and gone full on in the Glasgow game, I think that was a game that was there for the winning, and so, you know, I think the whole experience is very good for us. We've got something out of every game, and what we have to do now this year is what we did last year, which is make sure our Heineken Cup experience knocks us on for the rest of the Premiership for the rest of the season. Cardiff is a very important game in that whatever we do this weekend has got to make sure it makes us a better team, and we've had that year on year. You know, our second half of the season, we've kind of added a couple of things based on that big game experience. We've added a couple of things based on a lot of players coming through tough games. And I think that's what's important. You need to remember now we've got extra players who've come through Heineken Cup campaign. You know, now you've had Jack Noel come through a Heineken Cup campaign. You've had Dave Ewers come through a Heineken Cup campaign. You know, these guys hadn't been through this last year. You know, Damien Welsh has played a full part through a Heineken Cup campaign now. You know, these are very important things. You know, Luke Cowan-Dickey getting Heineken Cup experience, Ben Moon getting some big Heineken Cup experience. If you actually start to work your way through the team, you know, we've got a lot of guys who have have now had some big experiences for the first time, and they will only get better for that. And that's an important part of what we do here. You know, we learn things, we experience things, and we've got to target getting better. We're not happy that we're not winning as many games of rugby as we'd like, but we're also realists in that we actually do look at the results. And we've had a lot of less than 1 score losses against some very, very good sides. And what we have to focus on is seeing the picture for what it is, and not getting panicky and thinking we've got to rip everything up and start all over again. Because what we do works against everybody to within 1 score pretty much. Well, that's not a bad foundation for us to be working from for the rest of the season and going forward.
And obviously with next season, the uncertainty over Europe, you still want to make sure that you're strong in the Premiership, because whatever comes about in terms of a competition, you want to be there or thereabouts.
Everything I've been told takes away any uncertainty as far as I'm concerned. I mean, everything I've been told, in whatever format, there's going to be a pretty major, pretty exciting competition taking place. Now, whether that involves the standard Heineken Cup format or whether that format slightly changes is a bit irrelevant, really. There's going to be something exciting there to play for. If it does end up getting broken into segments where it's a top level competition and a second level competition, we want to make sure we're in the top one. So fighting to be in the top 6 and beyond that is very, very important to us. And as I said, that's why it's very important that everything we learn from the Heineken Cup campaign we put forward into the Premiership.